and talk to you about Freckles lessons. Who has dogs? Okay, good. Cats. Everybody, a parakeet? Are your dogs smart?
Not even close.
Some are. My daughter, when she was 5 years old, wanted a pet badly. Freckles was 5 weeks when we got him, with his large, protruding brown eyes, soft, orange and brownish, kind of beige fur. He was the cattiest bunny you ever seen. I was reluctant. Growing up, we just had these 25-cent chicks that my mother would send to my grandmother's farm to be raised and grow and then to be served as chicken soup. But when I saw Freckles on my daughter's shoulder, that little ball of fur, as a baby, just like I held her, she got me. So we got Freckles. 100 promises from my children quickly evaporated. My husband did 99% of the work. He was devoted to Freckles. I ended up with this cage, gigantic cage, in metal, 3 by 3 by 3 feet. And then it was in the middle of my brand new family room that we just have built, with a bill of about $70 to $100 a month because you only eat organic. Then I had these mountains of hair to clean, not to mention allergies. That bunny. But Freckles, he took over that room. He took over my daughter's dollhouse. He would go up and down the dollhouse. He would go on this top floor and stretch like a cat, doubling his size, and rearrange the furniture as a decorator. And those Barbies, those legs, he would chew them to human proportions. His favorite sports, soccer and high jump. With that nose, Freckles controlled that ball better than Cristiano Ronaldo from Real Madrid. He automatically and easily captured the ball and throw it back at you high. And then for the jumps, oh my gosh, he would jump this high, not this high, this high, and would twist and turn and swirl, each time landing differently, like Kramer. And Freckles made decisions. He was smart. He's kind of smart. He treated each person in the family differently. For my daughter, he was expecting that fairy love and attention every day at 3 o'clock. With my husband, gratitude and a clean cage. With my son, he played the best soccer games with my son. For me, we kept our distance. When as a family we would fight, he didn't like that at all. He would start stamping me harder and harder and harder until we just stopped arguing, deflating anger for laughter. Freckles knew more, observed more, understood more than what we thought. He was a very clean animal. My husband taught him to be toilet trained. He would groom himself every night. And he communicated clearly. meowing, barking, tweeting, not necessary. He knew how to tell you that he was happy or sad by stamping appropriately. He could look with those eyes, piercing into your soul. Talking about piercing into your soul. He would. He was in the moment, paying attention. Have you ever tried to find friends for your pets? We had that idea. We thought we'll bring Honey, my daughter's second grade bunny, pet bunny, to the house and take care of her and Freckles for a weekend. That Honey wasn't sweet. She would draw blood, fighting Freckles' tooth and nails. He was totally surprised and went back to his stuffed bunny girlfriend. One day we came in and he didn't look good. I don't know if it was because it was that time, almost 8 years old, or it was because the avocado pit that my husband gave him to improve his fiber diet wasn't working well. He was in a bad shape. My daughter came in, I sent her over to him, crying. She said, "Mom, I don't know what to do." "Just hold him," I said. She mustered some courage, got Freckles in her lap, talked to him, caressed him. In a few minutes, he convulsed and stopped breathing. I didn't tell her. I just wrapped Freckles in the blanket and took him to the bed. The bed told him. At that moment, I look at our family. What have we learned from this gentle creature all these years? We learned 3 lessons that I want to share with you. The first one, when you play, you make others playful. Freckles did that for us. You don't have to be exactly as others in order to communicate well. He managed to communicate clearly for those who care. And animals are a lot smarter than what we think, in spite of the reputation. The same with people. Is your life better because you have pets? Probably yes, ours was. And in life, you don't have to like something to respect it, to learn from it. We certainly learn many things from Freckles. And I hope you learned something from it too. Thank you. Thank you. Now, our next speaker is Tim. And Tim is going to speak about what to say when you don't know what to say. Tim? Thank you.
If you've ever been stuck for a speech topic or for what to talk about, then you know the challenge. Just all these ideas start going through your head, but none of them really seem right. You kind of go through them and pick them out. Like, could I talk about this? No. Maybe this? No. You go back and forth and back and forth. If you've ever done that, you know that your mind kind of gets into a dither that way. And that happened to me a lot until I learned a very important technique that completely changed the way I approach speaking. And might help you if you have a challenge of what to say. And that problem of what to say becomes particularly relevant in Toastmasters. Because in Toastmasters, you discover very quickly is every week, at least this club every week, most clubs every 2 weeks, meet. And someone's got to do talking. Someone's got to get up and give a speech. And if not you, then who? And quite often the answer is nobody. There are clubs, literally, they will meet every 2 weeks and no one will give a speech and they will do table topics and long sections of table topics and then they will go home. And it's because no one knows what to say. And that was my problem when I came to Toastmasters. I didn't know what to say. And so week after after week go by. What if I did? I couldn't think of anything. Finally, I had to go to the mentor, the real mentor of the club, Rocky Romero, which Pat knows. And Rocky's a tall guy, blackish hair, most important professional speakers. I go, Rocky, say, Rocky, I don't know what to talk about. What am I supposed to do? I said, Tim, well, what do you want to talk about? I said, well, Rocky, I don't know what to talk about. I got no clue what to talk about. And that's when Rocky gave me this tip that just transformed my speaking and really made me look at things a different way. He said, Tim, you find your passion, you find your speech. Think about that. You may not have heard that before, but it's really a powerful, important idea. If you find what your passion is, you find what you can talk about, you find what you can say. Which makes you probably wonder, Tim, what the heck are you talking about? What's passion? What are you talking about? Well, one passion, of course, is this exciting, thrilling passion. You know those people? Those obnoxious people? They come in the room, they just take up the room, they're exciting, they're excited, and just boom, like this. You know, like the Donald Trump people, just huge, everything's huge. Right? Let me talk about it, everything's huge, listen to me. They know what to say, they can find their passion. What about other people? Passion to means something you're interested in, something you like to do. You like to do something, right? There are things that Pat knows what she likes to do. Sure, Pat likes to sing, I know that. Other things too. Mike's got a few things maybe he likes to do. I know Ken was talking about his passion with astrophysics, those sort of things. There's this inside of these things you can talk about that are small things. Not a big deal maybe, but that need to be heard. Because whatever your reasons you think you're coming to Toastmasters, part of it is because deep down inside you have a desire to communicate. You have a desire to talk. Does that make sense? Come to a speaking organization because you want to speak. Right? That's the whole point. You have a desire to talk. So whatever little thing gets you going, whatever the little thing gets you interested in, that's what you talk about. That's what you say. In fact, they had that happen earlier for a person, called Debbie. Make her anonymous. Debbie said that, I said, Debbie, do you want to speak today? He said, well, Tim, I don't know what to speak about. What am I going to talk about? I said, Debbie, what do you like to do? He says, well, I've been on this trip to San Francisco. Maybe I could talk about that. Go ahead, Debbie, talk about it. Well, I don't know if I can talk, 5 minutes. That's going to be a long time. And Debbie got up and talked 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and 7 minutes, and 8 minutes, and 9 minutes. And pretty on was getting on to like 10 minutes or so. Stop! Say something for next time. Because she found that passion, she found her speech. Whatever you're excited about, what you're interested in, whatever you came here to say, it's an important thing to talk about. So maybe you're thinking, Tim, okay, what then? What do I do? What if I don't know what passion is? And that's a common problem too. You don't know what your passion is. You experience that? You know what your passion is, your excitement? Pat always knows what your passion is. Pat's a very passionate person. Not the obnoxious kind, the nice kind. Very passionate person. But if you have that passion, like something you don't know what it is, here's all you have to do. You just go up to a friend, somebody who knows you really well, and just ask them, what do I like to talk about? And your friend will probably say something like, you know what you want to talk about, something you're always talking about. So don't worry. If you don't know your passion, your friends do. Once you find this passion, you find what you're excited about, what you're interested about, everything just kind of opens up. Everything kind of opens up inside. It becomes a lot simpler. You become more confident on stage. Because when you come up there, you're talking something you really know about. You know that feeling you get when you're really talking about something you know about, or something you sort of heard about? Not a Wikipedia article, but something you really care about? Yeah, exactly. And of course, John was in politics. Knows it, loves it, passionate about it, can get up and talk about it. When that happens, quickly, you're going to have things to say. And as you have things to say, people are going to look at you and say, hey, that guy knows what I'm talking about. And you're going to find that spilling over into other areas, not just around here, but in your business. If you can talk and talk confidently and strongly, people say, somebody needs to say a few words. We've got a little bit of time to fill in the agenda here. You can say, yeah, I can do something. I can say something. And you can get up and say something relevant to the point, really makes sense. Well, that's going to be huge in your business. That's the sort of thing you're trying to find out about. When that happens, your whole life can get better because all of a sudden you're talking about things you're passionate about, and you start paying attention to the world around you to find out more things you're passionate about, more things you're excited about. So you get this challenge at Toastmasters. You come here and you wonder, what am I going to talk about? What am I going to say. And week after week after week goes by and you haven't said anything, don't worry. Remember, if you find your passion, you'll find speech.
Thank you very much, Tim. We will forever remember that if we find our passion, we will find our speech. And if not, we have a friend to ask. Now we have John, and John is going to talk with us about why Bernie will beat Hillary. John?
Thank you, Ms. Toastmaster. Before I start my speech, I just want to say I'm not favoring one candidate over the other, and I'm not telling you who to vote, because voting is a very personal issue, but I'm just going to lay out the facts, how I see them. So I'm sure a lot of you know there was an election for the primary in New Hampshire, I think it was last night, or maybe 2 nights ago this year. So last night. Last night. So in the election, Bernie Sanders, he won by 20 points over Hillary Clinton. It was pretty much of a landslide. And in the previous caucus a week or two ago, I think in Iowa, it was a tie. Now, what makes the election in New Hampshire, the primary, what made that night so significant were some of the facts. Just like in Iowa, Bernie Sanders, I believe he got between 80 and 90% of all young people, if you can imagine that. And a few of the things about Bernie Sanders, what in my opinion makes him so great, was during his victory speech for the New Hampshire primary, he was going on about how great it was that he wanted this net, and then he said, and I want all you Americans to send me $20, $30, or $50, whatever you can afford. And he went on for maybe 30 seconds, and then he said, there you have it. That's my fundraiser. As opposed to other candidates that talk to celebrities or corporations to raise money. How many people feel that there's too much money in politics? So just imagine how refreshing that was, that Bernie Sanders did that. And I was reading in the paper today that just from that he raised $5 million in 1
Wow.
week. So right there, that just shows you how he has a lot of stuff headed for his direction. A few other things why he's so popular as far as young people is a lot of people think the economy is getting better. And in a lot of things it has, but I was just talking to an elder gentleman today, and we were talking about the economy and the politics and young people, and he was like, yeah, young people are still living at home. So a lot of us have maybe good jobs, but the fact is for a lot of younger people, they have a lot of college debt, and it really hasn't been that good. And a few other things about Bernie Sanders is basically he has a clean record. He doesn't have a lot of baggage. There's not really a lot of things that you could dig into, that any skeletons are in his closet. And a few other things, he voted against the Iraq War, things such as this. Now, the one knock against Bernie Sanders is that he can't get the ethnic vote. Black people, they're not going to vote for him. He won Iowa and New Hampshire, and he's from Vermont, where it's a bunch of white people. The ethnics and the blacks, they won't vote for him. They love Bill Clinton. They love Hillary. That's her firewall. She's going to win the ethnic vote, and she's going to be the nominee. But let's think about it for a second. We all know the Black Lives Matter that has happened over the past few years. I've given a bunch of speeches. We all know in our own city what happened with the Black Lives Matter, a bunch of young blacks shot, many of them innocent, and we know how this affected our mayor. Basically, they wanted to run in City Hall and chop his head off. People, I think to this day, are still protesting that Rom's got to go. Yet, who was Rom close to? He's very close to the Clintons, and the reason why I pointed out is, as far as Black Lives Matter, it's mostly a protest against the establishment. So if you're going to choose between candidates, if you're a young black person or ethnic person, might you not perhaps choose Bernie Sanders instead of Hillary? Don't we all agree that's maybe a possibility? So right there, that just shows that her firewall, as far as getting the ethnic vote, is maybe not as strong as it would appear. As far as Hillary, like I said, Bernie doesn't have a lot of baggage. Hillary has kind of a lot of baggage. We all know there's an email scandal that keeps popping up when she was Secretary of State. Whether it's serious or not, I don't think anybody knows. Maybe some people think it is, but the fact is it keeps coming into play, and maybe questions people's, as far as Hillary's decision making, that was really the good thing to do. And as far as raising money, like I said before, Bernie Sanders, he just sends out an email to 30 million Americans and he raises his money that way. Hillary Clinton, she's raised millions of dollars from large banks like Goldman Sachs, what have you. I think for some of the speeches, they were actually paid speeches she did when she wasn't running for president. Where that money went, I think it just went to her bank account. But either way, she's done paid speeches for a lot of corporations, as far as she's getting a lot of campaign contributions from corporations and things like this. And while generally that's okay, in most elections that would be, people probably wouldn't bring it up. But she had the misfortune of running against Bernie Sanders. So all of a sudden these things stick out like a real sore thumb, because it just shows how unclean the process is and how much better Bernie might be as a candidate. And a few other things. Right now, I believe the national polls are just about even, yet many people still haven't heard of Bernie Sanders. When I work with a lot of, I wouldn't say blue collar, but basic working people. A lot of people don't even know Bernie yet. And as far as the election, every primary, each state has a different date. Some are in March and all the way through June, I think. Yet the national polls are even. So just think about it. He already just had one huge win and a tie in Iowa and New Hampshire. He's starting to raise a lot of money, so the momentum already is turning, yet he's even. So if this keeps up, where's he going to be in a month or two? Might not he actually ahead in many areas? So these are some reasons why I think Bernie has an excellent chance to win the nomination. I still think it'll be close, but if I had to choose someone right now, I would put my money on Bernie. And as far as if he does win and he goes up against Trump or whoever the Republican nominee, well, I will have to give you another speech on
Well, thank you very much to all the speakers. And next is my favorite part. And that's the part in which you get feedback of the speeches. For that, I would like to make sure that you're all ready. Pat, all the evaluators are ready. All right. Then Pat, you will come first to evaluate Grace's speech.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Grace. That was really a good speech. Good start. I want to compliment you on your courage for getting up here. You showed a lot of that, and you were actually fairly comfortable up here. You didn't appear that nervous. I don't know if you were aware of that, because sometimes when you first come up, you think, oh, everybody sees how nervous I am, but you didn't appear to be that nervous. I don't know if you were aware of that. You had a lot of positive energy. I thought that you came across as extremely genuine. We believed everything you said. You were very open with us, and you made us feel like we were getting to know you, which was just great. To improve, I would speak up a little more, and I would vary the loudness and the softness of your voice a little bit. I would slow down a little bit. Tim reminds us often, as our club guru, that we need to pause and let our audience catch up with us. And I know I was struggling between your accent and how quickly you were speaking to make sure I understood what you were saying. So I would definitely slow down. But I thought you have great potential. You have a lot of interesting stories that you can tell because of the contrast between where you came from and where you are now. So I think you have a lot of potential, and thank you so much for your first icebreaker. You did a nice job.
Thank you. I echo what Pat says about your speech. It was excellent and a perfect great start. Now we want to listen to Sean. Sean? Take my speech.
Am I
I pronounce your name?
Loida.
Loida. Brought back a lot of memories with a story about Freckles. What was it? Freckles Lessons. And that was the name of your own. I think like Tim mentioned, starting off with a question is very good because questions connect. And I thought that was a very positive way to start with the audience and get an interaction going. Felt like you took up the room very well. You had very good movement. I didn't feel like at any time it was too distracting or anything like that. Your expressions and your hand movement, I felt helped give a little bit of energy to your story and help make it a lot more interesting. And I think one of your biggest positives is that you seem very natural, very relaxed, very energetic. You know, I think I'm a little rigid, and I think you're like the complete opposite of me. So quickly improved. While you did have very good hand movement, you mentioned that you wanted to look for holstering the hands. I think it's Tim listed. And when you weren't getting a lot of expressions, your hands were still up here. That's just one thing to think about. You mentioned that you had 3 key points to me before you gave the speech. And I remember waiting in the beginning for you to give those 3 points to make them a little clearer. And instead, it wasn't until the end. And I think, especially since those are kind of your key points, your bread and butter, that you could put them in the beginning, or at least make them a little clearer throughout the speech. And I think that took a little bit away from the organization of the speech. I felt at times it was a little hard to keep up with what your main points were. Then for the humor, you definitely had some funny points. I think you could have made it funnier by harping and elaborating a little bit more on the story. You mentioned how your daughter wanted a pet really badly, yet you and your husband ended up doing most of the work, and that brought up a lot of memories. Kind of with my sister, how she wanted a pet, yet my dad and I ended up doing all the work. So I think if you pick a personal story, you connect more, and you'd be able to elaborate more on a funnier point.
Thank you. One of the advantages of this club is how serious we take feedback. And this is an example of being very thorough with our feedback. Next to give feedback to Tim is me. Tim, I love your speeches. I have heard that speech before, and every time you said it bigger, like you get more energy. You added fine points, such as talk about your friend and expression that make you really feel part of what you're saying. And we know you care about us and you're trying to share a very practical piece of advice. So from the content perspective, from the delivery, I think it's always excellent, outstanding. You also have one anecdote that I thought it was good because it brought the point to made the point tangible to us about what happened and what is the situation. If I were going to make one suggestion is probably bring the audience closer, maybe actually ask somebody. You asked the question at the beginning, but maybe involve more in the dialogue, especially because we have heard some of us the message before, and if you bring new people into the conversation, that could add another dimension to what you're saying for your speech. But overall, I enjoy very much. I always admired what much wisdom you have to share with all of us. But thank you very much. And last but not least, we have Sharon to evaluate John's speech.
pretty clear it's you're endorsing Bernie and pointing out why he makes a stronger candidate. I thought that was you did a really good job of being his cheerleader. I think when you asked the audience a question about fundraising, too much, isn't there too much fundraising in politics and involved in politics? And that was a good way to connect your audience even more. I noticed you didn't rely on your notes too much. That was good. I think maybe some suggestions for improvement could have been to point out some. You said that Bernie has no baggage the way that Hillary does. And I think maybe it would be good to even point out like what are some highlights of Bernie's past that make him even a stronger candidate, and maybe speculate what he could do for our country that you think Hillary can't do, just to get the audience thinking even more. And then you've got kind of a good sense of humor. I've noticed before in a lot of your speeches how you'll say something and it comes out funny, and so I think you could make even another joke, and either that or maybe have a little bit more energy with your presence, because you could do more with your stance, I think. But it was good to hear some information about the candidates, so I think it was good information too.
Now, everyone gets an opportunity to give feedback. And it could be good or bad, or a comment. The only thing I would suggest is to try to cover something that has not been covered already. Okay? Let's start with the icebreaker for Grace. Anybody has a comment? Additional comment? Tim?
A few comments. Grace, one thing, of course, personal is powerful. You already know about find your passion, find your speech. So certainly that's a great thing up there. You're passionate about being in America, so that's definitely relevant. And tease to please. You had a little part where you said, I'm going to talk, here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to get to it right now. I'm going to cover it later on. That's really effective. As you start to develop and grow as a speaker, become more comfortable, think about putting the audience first. What does the audience really care about? How can you, one common way, as you know, you hear a lot is questions. There are other ways too. How do you involve your audience? Why should they care about what you're talking about? One thing you can also do is use the you. And just step out of your story. Have you ever had that feeling where you're a stranger in a strange land? That's kind of the feeling that I had. And that creates more of a conversational back and forth feeling to it. And then, back up my pause for the point. So, great job, no question about it. To take it to the next level beyond the kind of typical Toastmasters, I'm going to talk to you, and more of a professional business like, let's involve everybody. Think about creating a conversation with the audience, the audience first, and using the you. Very good job.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, then feedback for me. Freckles lessons. Tim?
We'll go again. The personal is powerful. Find your passion, find your speech. Naturally, it's the great strengths you come up through this. As you develop as a speaker, challenge yourself to step out of the story. The biggest challenge is that you get locked in the story. It's a great story, but you want to step out of it. What if people don't have bunnies? They're thinking, I don't have a bunny, I have this. Say, yeah, you know how it is. If you don't, maybe you don't have a bunny, but you have a cat, you have a dog, you have something. So you've seen these cat videos, whatever. That's kind of, it's like one of those cat videos you see the thing, and then go back into your story. Use the you as opposed to talking about I did this, I did that, etc. to involve the audience. And a minor point, but I know I mentioned it before, is that you had three things at the end. Really think if you want to really point the way to your speech, have one central point. People leave, they got this vivid picture of this bunny, how it interacts, and you've got one point that story really connects directly to that one point. Not a story that's split up between three separate points. I think that would be much more common.
Great, thank you. Yes, Pat?
You look thin.
That was the most important part. Somebody else. Sure.
I enjoyed your story. I thought it was really good to hear someone's story about your pet, and I enjoyed it a lot. That was real entertaining.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, for Tim, additional feedback for Tim. Sean?
Positive, I always learn when you speak, so it's is always a theme on usually speaking, and there's a lot that I've learned.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? All right, thank you very much, Sean. And last but not least, about John. John's speech on Hillary. Tim.
John, a great job in putting the audience first there. You created a connection with the audience. You also use the you. You more commonly use we a lot. Here you use you. Towards the end, you start to get back in your we habits. So think about using that magical word you. Thoughts for development here is talk about beginning with the benefits. You really want to get people to, hey, vote for Bernie. Don't you want to have somebody who's not supported by the corporate fat cats? Wouldn't you like to have a person you can trust that's really supported by the people? Think about the benefits right at the very beginning and get people involved. Along with that, create that phrase that says, I'm surprised you didn't mention feel the burn, which is all over the web. I mean, you could have closed with it, you could have stuck it all the way through. It's just a natural there. And minor point, but if you get your elbows out, you'll be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger on the stage.
Great, somebody else? Pat.
I thought you didn't want us to think that you were for a particular candidate. Isn't that what you said?
That is what I said, Pat.
Okay.
Not supposed to have. I didn't want it.
No, no.
But, it's open to say what he wants to say. But I did say that. You're right.
Okay. I was just trying to understand.
Yeah, I didn't
So
want to
was
be
that a
gung-ho.
hidden
I
agenda?
just wanted to lay the facts out. That's what I said.
Okay, that's right. But
Yeah.
was it a hidden agenda?
No.
Okay. I was just
Yeah, I
checking.
You wanted to be
Okay.
less obvious about your bias.
I just wanted to lay the facts out. That's why. It's hard to do because on the one hand, I mean, if you're so biased, you're boring, right?
Right.
So it's always and you don't want to offend people, so.
I'm thinking of a speech like this where you say why Bernie will win. There's nothing the
Right.
matter of saying, I'm planning to vote for Bernie and here's why I think you ought to too. I think that's more powerful, stronger, and more...
I always look at Toastmasters, we're not supposed to be too political, or there's certain
We're
things.
extreme. I mean, come on.
Come on, but we all have our opinion views, and I don't like people putting their views on me, so, you know what I mean? That's,
Well,
I-
that is supposed
Oh,
to
yeah.
be one of the Toastmasters things.
Yeah.
Isn't there some topics that you're not really supposed
so I was
to?
trying to be a little, not all.
Okay.
I actually liked his introduction, saying I'm not up from one or the other. I just lay in some facts, and I thought that was excellent. I appreciate when you bring the facts from one side to the other, and you just let people make their own conclusions. Especially in a forum like this, you don't want to take a position, especially in controversial issues of this nature. There are others. You might want to have a position, but of this nature, I think it's a slightly different story.
I'll be
but-
speaking about abortion in my next speech.
It's gonna go over real well.
I don't want to hear. I don't want to
dear.
hear.
But take no opinion on either side. Well, abortion is evil, but I'm not really necessarily...
On this topic. Okay, now let's just take a moment to get the listening master report and then the time report. Listening master was
Hi.
Ken.
I'm the
Please come
listening
on down,
master.
Ken.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Come on down. You have to be
Yeah.
here. You have
So, all the questions per speaker. So the first one was Grace. This was titled Why Did I Come to America? And the questions. Okay, so when Grace was talking to the taxi driver, he classified the Chinese students as two types. What are those two types?
The ones who want to go back as soon as they can back to the place they came from, and the second one is the one who want to do as much as possible to stay in the States.
There you go. Yes. One that wants to study and go right back home, and then one that strives to stay in the U.S. All right. Next speaker was Loida. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Was Freckles lessons. And the question is, what is Freckles' favorite sport?
Soccer.
High jump.
High jump, yeah.
Right. Next speaker, Tim. I always want to say find your passion, find your speed. But what tip did Rocky give to Tim?
Find your passion, find your speed.
I basically went with this question. I had to stick because
That's the power of having 1 point in your speech.
All right, and John, John, so why Bernie become Hillary? So what key things did Bernie do to gain 80-90% popularity among young voters? Anyone raise your hands? Big daddy wait. So ask the question again.
I don't even know the answer myself.
Let me give you a clue. What key speech did Bernie do to gain 80-90% popularity among young voters?
Wow. You stumped everybody.
Wow.
That's all right. Well, he gave a speech asking for the fundraiser. Hey, I want everybody in the stadium to give me just $30-60 because I have nothing. So then he eventually got $5 million in that day. So that's a key sticking point that I found from John's speech.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much. Now, Daniel, could you please come over and give us our time report?
Sure. Okay, so for the table topics, Ken, yours was 1 minute 20 seconds. John, yours was 1 minute 48 seconds. Loida, yours was 1 minute 4 seconds. Mike, yours was 1 minute 10 seconds. And Shara, yours was 40 seconds. So for the speeches, Loida, yours was 8 minutes and 18 seconds. So just a bit over, but you told me that, so I was prepared for that. Grace, yours was 7 minutes and 5 seconds. Tim, your speech was 6 minutes and 16 seconds. And John, yours was 6 minutes and 45 seconds. So for the feedback portion, Pat, yours was 1 minute and 40 seconds. Sean, yours was 2 minutes and 38 seconds. Loida, yours was 1 minute and 30 seconds. And Shara, yours was 1 minute and 28 seconds. So that's the time report for the Toastmasters meeting.
Great. Thank you very much. Excellent. Time reporting is so important, and so I really, really appreciate that you did that contribution, and that your questions were also excellent, Ken. With that, I think I'm going to be adjourning this part of the meeting and letting everybody